Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another edition of What's Hot with Sea Tranquility. I'm your host, Pete Pardo, publisher and CEO of SOT. Today is Friday, October the 26th. The month is just about over. Halloween is right around the corner, and we've got more and more great new releases that are coming out each and every week that I want to share with you. We got a small little stack today. Got some other ones that I'm going to save for a future show for next week, so let's just jump right in. The first two are progressive metal, I'd say. At least one of them squarely progressive metal. The other's kind of progressive rock / metal. Both excellent, both on two of the premier labels that are releasing that kind of stuff these days. We're talking about Frontiers Records and Inside Out Records. The first one is on Frontier. It is the first album in I think it's 8 years from Swedish progressive metal veteran Seventh Wonder. It's called Tiara. There's a cover on that bad boy right there. Another concept album from the band. A very, very spectacular band who probably just as well known for their music as for the fact that their lead singer, Tommy Karavak, also is in Camelot. He replaced Roy Khan in Camelot a number of years ago. So since he made that move, these guys have been pretty silent, but they've been working on this album for a number of years while he's had breaks in between what's going on with Camelot. Well worth the wait. This is a dynamite album, an easy contender for progressive metal album of the year. Contains all the things about Seventh Wonder that we've come to love. The amazing vocals, the catchy vocal harmonies. The melodic as all hell. These songs just ultra memorable from the first listen. Crunchy guitar work, blazing lead guitars and lead keyboards, lots of symphonic arrangements. It's heavy, it's melodic, it's epic. Everything we love from Seventh Wonder is here. I haven't gotten too deep in the storyline yet and following all the lyrics, but I think if you love their previous releases, you'll love this. Well, like I said, one of the things that struck me so much about this, and I bring this up all the time, a successful album is the one that you play it that first time and it instantly grabs you and you're already humming those melodies and remembering those guitar riffs after that first listen. That's a keeper, folks. So, and this is a keeper. Tiara from Seventh Wonder. Check it out. All right, over to Poland. Inside Out Records, the latest from veteran act, well-respected act, Riverside. It's called Wasteland. That's the album right there. This is a nice fold out. There's the guys. They've had a little bit of tragedy in the band, but they've regrouped, put together another fantastic album. One of the things I like about Riverside, and again, at the top of this show, I mentioned how they kind of straddle that line between progressive rock and metal. So they do, they've always been good at doing some of that Pink Floyd style / Porcupine Tree style, kind of almost spacey rock stuff, spacey prog, mixed with some really heavy riffs and metallic stuff. They do that really, really well on here. Again, another album that just has those elements that they do so well. Some great tunes on here. Acid Rain is a great song. It's a nice heavy song. There's an instrumental on here, The Struggle for Survival. It's almost 10 minutes long. Fantastic. Really fantastic, complex stuff. It's a little bit of everything here. Great vocals, great melodies, killer guitar work. All right, the rhythms are fantastic. Keyboards when needed. A very, very good, classy album. Riverside's another one of those bands that just puts one great album after another. So there you got Seventh Wonder and Riverside, two must-hear albums for all you kind of prog metal fans. All right, we're going to come back over here to the U.S. A band that, has in a very short time has generated a ton of both acclaim and animosity and opinions flying all over the place. And these kids, they're kids. They're all of them in their early 20s. Of course, I'm talking about Greta Van Fleet. Their latest album is called Anthem of the Peaceful Army. That's it right there. This is hot off the presses. Yeah, you got two camps here, right? You got the people who love the fact that there's this young band that's so talented, that's kind of doing that Led Zeppelin style, a band that almost everybody loves and everybody has missed for decades. And these guys do it well, okay? They released 2 EPs over the last year and a half. Earlier this year, they combined both those EPs into one release, one CD release, which is kind of cool. Very Zeppelin-ish, I might add. But, with this latest one, there are some other elements going on here, which I kind of dig. Again, they embrace classic hard rock from the 70s without a doubt. Singer's got those high-pitched vocals, which are like a cross between Plant and Geddy Lee from Rush. The guitar player, and it's basically all a family. It's like two brothers, a cousin, and a best friend. So these kids have known each other since they were real little kids, right? The guitar work is just like Jimmy Page, and he does a great job of going from the thunderous riffs to some of the more bluesy stuff. Throws some slide in here, little sitar stuff, and he can do the acoustic work. There's some folky tunes on here. What I like about this album is that it's got a lot of textures, a lot of variety. The first half of the album is pretty rockin'. Okay, some heavy tunes, some couple kind of proggy type of tunes, which I kind of like. And then the back end of the album dips into some of that like catchy folk stuff. So I'm reminded of like Led Zeppelin 3 quite a bit, because the band does the kind of light and shade type of thing, which is pretty cool. Opinions are all over the map on this album so far. I like it because I don't have an issue with younger bands kind of mimicking a style from yesteryear from great bands who are no longer with us. So I don't have an issue with this. I like it. The songs are really good. The production is great. The musicianship and the vocals are impeccable. Tunes are memorable. It is what it is. I like it. So it's a keeper for me. Greta Van Fleet, Anthem of the Peaceful Army. Next, we're going to move up to Great White North, Canada, for a veteran band. A veteran band that was so important to the early thrash and extreme metal scene. I'm talking about Voivod. The Wake is their latest for Century Media. Man, is this good. We also have a bonus disc on here, which has their live at 7,000 tons of metal cruise, as well as the Post Society EP. So tons of music on here. The album itself, The Wake, has got 8 tracks. Some killer stuff. It's like vintage Voivod. Really, one of the things I always liked about Voivod is they were such an off-kilter, offbeat band. Yeah, they were kind of thrash, but not. They were kind of progressive metal, but not. Very futuristic, thinking man's metal, complex at times, borderline extreme at times, especially early in their career. And a little punk edge at times, right? But just killer. I mean, everybody misses Piggy, but their new guitar player, who's not that new, he's been around for a while now in the band, some really great riffs and textures and chords and things, lead work, great, really cool vocals. The bass work is great. The drumming from Away is fantastic. A really, really strong album. I think I like this a lot more than I expected to. Voivod's always been one of those bands that I have enjoyed them periodically throughout their career, but there were spots during their career where I kind of lost interest. Well, they've got me back again with this one. Voivod, The Wake, seek that at all costs. All right, so we got a lot of notable record labels here today. So we're going to go from Century Media over to Metal Blade for the latest from new wave of British heavy metal legends. And yeah, they're legends. You can try and convince me otherwise. Satan, Cruel Magic. Really strong album. These guys, this is their third release since their reunion, and their other two have been great. This is also great. This one's a little different, less polished production-wise. They, for the most part, recorded this live in the studio. Has that kind of raw live feel. Makes no difference because the songs are fantastic. The really strong high-pitched vocals, the dueling twin guitars, the galloping rhythms, catchy tunes. They're heavy. If you love early Iron Maiden and you haven't listened to Satan, you are missing out big time. So go and get a copy of Cruel Magic. I guarantee you will love it. Catch them out on tour. They're playing here in the States either right now or in the next couple weeks. So definitely check them out. A really, really, really great album. Love it. Okay, we've got a book to talk about. Martin Popoff, acclaimed reviewer, writer extraordinaire, been around forever. Of course, he has been with Brave Words and Bloody Knuckles for as long as I can remember. He's written a ton of great books. We've covered so many of them here on this channel and on the website. His latest one, going back to Sabbath again, Sabotage, Black Sabbath in the 70s. I am just finishing this one up as we speak. This basically takes a look at just the years, 1970 through 1979. So it's all those first albums with Ozzy. So once Ozzy left the band and Dio came in, that's when the book ends. So basically the Black Sabbath album through Never Say Die. As is always the case with Martin's books, he basically, each chapter is about an album. And the recording of the album, the production of the album, the writing of the album, all the shenanigans going on during putting together the album, the tours of the album, bands that they toured with, all the backstage stuff, all the craziness that happened with management, but also more importantly, or most importantly, is discussion about each of the songs. Okay, and Martin's breakdown of the songs and their importance and, what he thinks of them. But it's mixed with interview snippets from all members of the band from all throughout the years, some more recent stuff, recollecting back on these albums, times in the band, as well as interview segments from back in the day. I'm a Sabbath fanatic, right? One of my top 2 favorite bands of all time. So obviously I knew I was going to like this. Martin's a huge fan as well. I love the breakdowns of the albums because to me that's, he gets into some of the sex, drugs, and rock and roll stuff, but not too heavy. There are other books that you can read where other authors go into that. Martin's more coming at it from the music and the albums, but there's plenty of, with Sabbath, there was a lot of shenanigans and a lot of excess going on during the Sabbath years, especially the first 10 years that they were together. So there's a bit of that. Not so much Martin talking about it, but guys in the band and management and producers and all that kind of stuff talking about what was going on with them at the time. But a very cool read. Martin's favorite, the reason why it's titled Sabotage is because that's Martin's favorite album by them during this time period. I think favorite album overall from the band. I kind of disagree on that one. I love Sabotage. I lean towards Volume 4 and Sabbath Bloody Sabbath and Master of Reality. Those are my top 3. He tends to go for Sabotage and Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. He big fan of Technical Ecstasy. I don't dislike Technical Ecstasy. I like it. Some of it I don't like, and Never Say Die I'm not big on at all. But and the first 2 albums are obviously great. But I'm a huge fan of the band, so I like most of their stuff. But anyway, a great read. Roughly, I think it's about just under 300 pages, so you can get through this one pretty quick. Some photographs in here, but mostly it's text just talking about these albums in the 70s and everything that kind of happened in between. So pretty cool stuff. So with that, our last bit of business for the day. Forgotten favorites. I'm still on a jazz fusion kick, so forgive me if you're waiting for me to talk about more metal and prog from the past. I'll be getting to that in future episodes. I've been listening to a ton of jazz and jazz fusion lately. So today's forgotten favorite is from 1983. It is by a legendary figure on the jazz scene who took kind of like an extended hiatus the late part of the 70s, or mid part of the 70s into the early 80s, where he kind of disappeared and just locked himself in his apartment in New York City and was doing all sorts of drugs and drinking and just fell off the face of the earth. And in the early 80s, 1981 to be exact, he kind of resurfaced with a renewed vigor to create new music. And in 1983, he released one of probably his strongest album of the decade, called Star People. I'm talking about Miles Davis. A fantastic album. It's just a lively album. Bits of rock and funk and jazz and just long songs, lots of jamming. It's got 2 incredible guitar players on it, John Scofield and Mike Stern. Who else is on this album? Mino Cinello on percussion, Bill Evans on saxophone, Al Foster on drums, Marcus Miller on bass, Tom Barney also on bass, and of course Scofield and Stern on electric guitar. This is a savage album, folks. It's got so much groove. I can't imagine anybody not liking Star People. Just put it on and watch people start to move and groove and get into those wailing guitar solos. And Miles's bleeding trumpet. It's just great stuff. In fact, I have it on now in the background. I don't know if you can hear it, but a really, really good album that I enjoy quite a bit. I'm a big fan of Miles Davis in general, but his early 80s albums are pretty damn cool. So anyway, that's it. This is on the web at www.citytranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Like us both places there. Make sure you join us over on Facebook, folks, because we got a lot of cool things that we're doing over there. We have polls every day, a lot of interesting polls. Make sure you like us, okay? And then you'll also get all the notifications in your feed, in your news feed. We post links to reviews and concert reviews and interviews that we've done on the website. Okay, it's really the only place you're going to get that stuff or get notifications of that stuff. I don't do that here too often. But come back here and see us here. I've got another new product show coming up in a couple days, maybe even squeeze in this weekend. We've got some new stuff from Metal Blade, including the new Behemoth. We've got, what else? Tomorrow's Eve, new CD by them. New CD by Glass Hammer. Going to review that on here too. That's coming up. And as well as we got some rants this weekend. I'm hoping to get to the Gillen History of show. And if I can squeeze it in, I'm going to do the Blue Oyster Cult History of show too. If I don't get it in this weekend, you'll definitely see it next week. So lots of good stuff coming. So make sure you tune in, and we'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.